Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're going to wait just a couple more minutes for people to log in, and we'll start right at the top of the hour. So thank you. Okay, I have a couple others logging in here. We'll give it about 30 more seconds before we get started with our presentation. Again, thank you for joining us. Okay, and I think we're good to go. So, hi everybody, I'm Bree Kruger. I'm the EVP for ProLink. We're here to meet about our Homeowner Assistance Fund deployment system, ProLink Plus. This is a webinar series that we have maintained for a couple months now, meeting with agencies, providing a platform to share our solution and then also share our progress and our involvement in deploying HAF solutions across the nation. So we hope you find some good information today here as it relates to your HAF plan. With that said, I'll go ahead and get started on our presentation. Our speakers today, myself, Bree Kruger, as I mentioned, with ProLink. I'm joined by Josh Brown, who's the Director of Strategic Initiatives for E&A team. E&A team is one of our team partners that helps us support consulting and training services as it relates to our HAF program and software deployment. And then Leonard Magliola is a Senior Product Owner with ProLink Solutions, who will be providing us with a summarized live demonstration of our homeowner portal and our agency portal on ProLink Plus. Okay. And then I'm sorry guys, let me go back one slide. I had my face in my own way on there we go, on the agenda today. We're going to go over company overview for ProLink. So for those of you who are not familiar so much with ProLink, we'll have a couple slides on that. I will hand it over to Josh to talk about some of our HAF planning involvement. We are going to go over our delivery model of ProLink Plus. We have an exciting case study that we're going to be highlighting today with Arkansas, who is live on a pilot, including ProLink Plus. So we're really excited to talk about that. And I know there's some Arkansas representatives on the line. So thank you for your attendance and your partnership. And then finally, we'll have that ProLink Plus live demo. All right, so for our company overview, many of you know us and have heard of us over the years. ProLink has been involved in the affordable housing industry for 23 years now. Our clients are made up of really state and local housing finance agencies, tax credit syndicators and investors, developers. We also have supported single family grant management systems and emergency fund deployment needs with the HHF program in the earlier 2000s. Our work, really, we try our best to provide holistic software solutions. So whether it is on our multifamily tax credit side of our business supported by ProLink HFA, which we have some of our clients on the line who are on that product as well, supporting you from that initial origination all the way through asset management and ongoing compliance and final disposition needs within those portfolios. And similarly with our emergency fund deployment solution, it is from that initial application intake stage all the way through compliance and audit, you know, and the final closing of these programs. So meeting the full spectrum, being that single source of record for you over the course of these programs is our goal. And then as much as we can connect our parties together, both internally and externally, to just really support efficiency across your business process in rolling out these programs and managing these programs, we try to encourage that as well. Our team is made up of technologists. We're obviously a software company, but also industry experts in affordable housing. It's really all that ProLink does is affordable housing support. So it's something that we are very mission driven by in support of our clients. Quickly highlighting our customers, we have this broken down into the different divisions of our products. So ProLink HHF and ProLink Plus are listed at the top, and we're excited to be engaged again with Tennessee and Arkansas on ProLink Plus right now. Tennessee is underway, and we are hoping to launch their pilot over the next few weeks. Excited to talk to you further about Arkansas later on in this presentation. ProLink HFA, again, some of our clients are represented on this call. Thank you for those partnerships. That is more of our multi and single family tax credit and asset management software. And then finally, you can see our ProLink AIM at the bottom, which is more of our syndicator and investor clients as it relates to tax credits. Okay, so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Josh for his overview. We are involved in the HAF planning stages with the clients that we're working with, and so I'm going to hand it over to him to provide some updates to this group into that involvement.
Great, thanks, Bree. So today we want to talk a little bit about some information you may be aware of, but Treasury did release some updated guidance recently, and they extended the submission date for the HAF plans to the end of July 31st, 2021. And as was the case with the previous deadline, states or participants are either required to submit their plan by that date or indicate to Treasury a date in the future by which they will submit their plan. Along with that guidance that came out, or that extension, they indicated that they'll be releasing some more guidance that many of us are waiting on and anticipating that will probably be coming out here shortly ahead of that deadline. In addition, we anticipate that they'll be providing with that the actual instructions on how to submit the plan, whether it's emailing it to a specific department or whether there's going to be a portal, something of that nature. So they're going to be informing us of that coming up soon. A number of states are well along the way in drafting their HAF plans. That some of are out for public comment. Some are still considering some designs. And like we said, that portal should be coming here soon so we can actually get those submitted and get Treasury to start reviewing them. So we'll go ahead and hit to the next slide there. So today's discussion related to HAF planning, I want to focus a little bit more and take a few minutes to kind of describe the role that E&A plays in the delivery model that ProLink has put together, and ultimately how this approach is designed to meet your needs. What you see on the screen here is a familiar graphic that talks about the 5 components of the HAF plan, which by this point, most states and HAF participants are familiar with and have been contemplating in some way. Now, E&A assists HAF participants in 3 primary ways. The HAF plan consulting that Bree mentioned, as well as the training and also quality control and quality assurance file reviews if needed to help you maintain accountability and compliance with your program. Now, the overall point I hope to leave you with today is that this delivery model that Bree's going to talk about more in a few minutes has been designed to meet each state participant where they are and really fill only those gaps where you need that assistance. Now, for example, some states have a wealth of experience, and we've seen this in single family programs. Some have administered the hardest hit fund in the past, and in those cases, they feel extremely comfortable designing their plans, and they need less help in the program design. Whereas other states may have little experience and are seeking much more direct input and guidance from us and from ProLink's group of partners in developing and drafting that plan and getting the pieces of the puzzle put together. And we've been involved in both of those types of scenarios. Now, HAF Plan consulting can really be tailored to meet the level of need specific for your agency. So if you need help with drafting the plan, we can help with that. If you only want some assistance designing your operating procedures and laying out how you're going to use the software ProLink Plus to achieve the objectives that you've laid out in your plan, we can help with that as well. Now, a common challenge, and we've seen this many times in any program startup and software rollout, is not spending enough time thinking through the details and steps of how a task is going to be accomplished. You know, marrying that business process and the desires of that business process and those benchmarks that you put in place in your plans to the system functionality. And that's an important step that can't be ignored. And if it's done correctly, it can actually make the process much more efficient and much more pleasant for the end user from a customer service perspective, as well as for the agency that's administering the program. Now, we're leveraging what we've learned from past experience in the operations of the Hardest Hit Fund and the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, and we're finding ways where we can mitigate potential delays and roadblocks with the Homeowner Assistance Fund. And the most effective way to do that is a thorough front-end analysis and planning and detailed discussion about the software's design, the business objective of the plans that have been designed, who will be performing each of those tasks and how will they be trained, and who will be performing the tasks for processing as well as call center, and making sure that they're well prepared via effective training. And ultimately, there is no one-size-fits-all approach for the HAF program. It's going to differ from state to state. It's going to depend on the demographics and needs within the state or the jurisdiction, as well as the objectives and desires of the agency and the government entities responsible for administering that program. We've already observed and we've assisted in designing many different approaches in addressing some of the aspects of the program for participants. Some examples include some approaching the socially disadvantaged prioritization by opening the prioritization for a specified time period, or using special marketing to incentivize socially disadvantaged households to apply, analyzing available servicing data ahead of time to identify socially disadvantaged households and maybe doing direct outreach to them, and some other unique approaches. We've also observed different perspectives and approaches in determining the financial hardship, from simple self-attestations with the description of the hardship to specific thresholds involving income comparisons, for example, to determine the extent of and continuation of the hardship. We've also observed and assisted in different approaches in program design, including just basic reinstatement only programs to ongoing mortgage payment assistance, and discussing how to coordinate utility relief through HAF with other already existing relief options, and talking through those processes and how to make sure that that is handled correctly. And while pilot programs are not required, the amount of knowledge and experience that can be obtained from operating a pilot is proving to be extremely beneficial in fine-tuning the full HAF program. Now, since the original Treasury guidance was released in April, most HAF participants have been thinking and planning for this program. And by now, most of you are familiar to some extent with the 5 components we talked about at the beginning and when it's expected to be delivered. But the next natural phase of this progression is to begin evaluating the items within your plan and making some decisions regarding how it's going to be executed. So some questions that you're probably asking right now is, will there be a call center? And if so, who's going to operate it? What functions will the call center perform? Now, who is going to be processing our applications and making eligibility determinations? Are we going to use internal staff to do this, or do we need outside help? How does the software work to achieve these objectives that have been laid out in your plan? Do you have a good understanding of what it takes to get these pieces configured so that they work together and make sure everybody knows their roles? And ultimately, who's going to train everybody on their respective roles to make sure they have the access they need and the knowledge that they need? And ultimately, the earlier you get these various partners involved and make those decisions on the who is going to do what, that is going to make a better process and make the process go smoother, since discussions can cover any potential challenges and complications before you end up going live with your full program. Having that time to think through some of these details and work out those process flows and procedures, since we're still waiting on Treasury to give us, that place where we can submit the plan, giving us some time to maybe test them through a pilot program if that's desired ahead of the full program. And these things can really help mitigate potential issues later and make a full implementation go a lot smoother. Now, as you watch the demo presentation here in a few minutes that Leonard's going to provide, and you're thinking through some of these questions that you may have regarding how you plan to execute your plans that you've developed, or if you still need help in developing your plan and how you're going to achieve the objectives you've laid out, keep in mind that we're able and prepared to help fill whatever gaps you may have in your current capabilities to make your program a success. Whether it's full-scale services, including HAF Plan development and writing, to standalone call centers and application processor and program management, to a more minimal involvement where you just need assistance maybe configuring the software to achieve your plan's objectives that you've already designed, and to help train your staff. We all have a shared goal to find the most efficient way to deliver this assistance to the people who need it, and we're happy to be able to be a part of this delivery model that ProLink's put together to help see that be a success. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Bree to talk a little bit more about the delivery model and take us to the live demo.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Josh. Okay, so diving quickly into our delivery model. You may have seen this slide in the past if you've attended some of our other webinar sessions, but I call this the bird's eye view slide. It really just illustrates ProLink Plus and our touch points with the other constituents involved in rolling out your HAF plan. It also highlights some of the other services that we're involved in supporting for our HAF clients. So you can see ProLink Plus represented in the middle. We have the Homeowner Portal on the left, and then the Agency Backend Portal on the right-hand side. As homeowners are submitting their applications through the Homeowner Portal, those applications, once submitted, are going to be available and accessible through our agency backend database for those processors and underwriters to then take a hold of and continue supporting and qualifying. We also have built out business processes with our customers to support the alternative methods for application submission. So managing through concerns for if a paper application process is required, if people don't have access to computers, if they need additional support in submitting an online application. Mobile friendliness, all of those things have been taken into account through either the electronic app submission process or through call centers, counselors, and other representatives being involved in that process to support those homeowners. We recognize through lots of experience with HHF and studying the experience of HHF and other similar programs, the importance of getting those applications in the door and submitted as effectively and efficiently as possible, and helping that be an easy process for our homeowners. So that is where we've spent a lot of attention on the front end of rolling out our programs. And then once those applications are available through the agency backend portal, we will work with you on identifying your business processes and your different teams who are going to be supporting the other functions required, your program management, processing, underwriting, that payment disbursement process, which we'll touch on through the live demo. And then finally, that outgoing reporting, both for your leadership team, and then also for US Treasury and HUD and all of the other constituents that we need to report out to. So all of those things can be done through our agency backend database. Additionally, as Josh covered, we do support most other program services that you may require. Early on in beginning our support of HAF, we quickly realized the importance of providing as much of a turnkey solution as we could to our partners, and the efficiency gained in developing these teams underneath our ProLink Plus umbrella to bring efficiency in training and familiarity with our tool set across the different partners involved in HAF that will likely be using our tools. So we've done that with E&A team, as Josh mentioned, in kind of that program plan consulting stage. We have a number of teams that we work with to support call center needs if that's required. Same thing with underwriting and processing services, program management and additional staffing needs. Obviously, there's different levels of infrastructure across the nation, depending on if you had a previous HHF program or another mortgage relief program within your state. So we can work with you to make sure that we fill those gaps as you need them to be filled and make that as efficient of a process as possible. And then finally, if any kind of compliance verification, quality control assistance is needed, that is something that we can offer as well. Again, our goal is to make this as efficient of a process as possible and make it something that is launched with ease, and also we can respond quickly as things need to change, as we need to improve our model. So we really feel strongly about our ability to do that through the teams that we've developed and the implementations we are moving forward with. Quickly, this is our pilot timeline. So this is generally about a 4-week time span from the time we engage with a new agency to when we can go live with a pilot. We are committing to this and we're executing on this, as you will see with Arkansas in just a few minutes. The beginning of our engagements, it takes into account that pilot program targeting that population that you want involved in your pilot before moving into kind of the application training and configuration stages of the system. And throughout those 4 weeks, we're also doing your program consulting, and we're continuing with process discovery, both to support your pilot, but then also everything that we're doing is informing that final program rollout. So whether you're choosing to do a pilot or not, all of these steps are required to get to that final program rollout. This is a little bit more of an expanded view. If you're starting out day one, engaging with us, we're looking at about 6 weeks to roll out that final program. A little bit of this timeline obviously is dependent on getting Treasury approval and feedback and making the necessary adjustments according to that feedback. But we have a great foundation, having our experience with HHF, having that infrastructure in place. So a lot of those things, as far as we can tell, will be covered already, and we'll act quickly to make any adjustments required once we get that feedback from Treasury according to your plan. So, we have that application training and additional team training that will be happening towards a little bit closer to when that go live launch date is identified for your agency. Okay, and then quickly, as we move through these months over the summer, I know, you're all engaged in trying to make the best decisions possible for the partners that you take on, the vendors that support you in your HAF plan. So this is just a list of some of the differentiators we believe that we can support you with. First being that we are trying to provide a turnkey solution, whatever that looks like for your agency. So in addition to our software, we have our services. And then at the software level with our implementations, our base implementation, it does include that business process mapping, project management support, and the consulting that Josh was referring to. That piece is, whether you need it or not, that's part of what we offer in our implementation. I think that's really important to highlight, is this isn't just a software solution where we hand over the keys and expect you to drive it from there. We really do work with you and your business to identify your processes and make sure alongside you that we can support your needs. So that's an important step and makes the whole program go much smoother. It's much more successful that way. We have great customer service. I think we really do pride ourselves in being hands-on with our clients and making sure they know we're there, not only through your implementation, not only through tailoring your training to meet your business process. It's not just a kind of canned training program that we offer. It's tailored to your business process and your specific implementation. But then we also offer ongoing consulting support. So every single client that we work with on every single product is assigned a principal business consultant by ProLink, who's truly an expert in our tools and has a voice, a very strong voice behind the scenes to advocate for our clients' needs as those evolve over time. Security. So this is something that obviously is important to everybody and usually comes up quickly when we have our first meetings with agencies, is how we support our security, how we support our applications. We are Amazon Web Service based, so we do support all of our instances through Amazon Web Services. We are SOC compliant, and we have, you know, all the standards required to meet those requirements, which is very high. I think we will slide through any kind of security and compliance requirements that your agency has. We should be able to meet with those certifications. You know, uptime is not a concern. One of the questions I get often is, with the volume of applications that we're going to see coming in when these programs are released, what's that going to do to the availability of the software and the ability to keep up with that? And that is certainly not a concern, and something that we make sure we have plenty of capacity to manage. And then finally, customizations. So every HAF program, while we all have the same requirements that we need to meet for Treasury, it can look different, and we are there to support customizations. Again, being in the affordable housing industry, I don't think we've worked with a client ever in the past that did not require some level of customization to meet their agency needs. So it's something we are tremendously familiar with and ready to support you with. Okay, so here's the highlight of our presentation today, the case study with Arkansas Development Finance Authority. So just some quick stats to familiarize everybody with this program. Arkansas has been allocated $54 million from Treasury. That's outside of the administrative cost. So that's the direct benefit to homeowners that we are measuring. They have a total population of about 3,750,000 homeowners, making up 65% of a homeownership rate for the state. So we are engaged with Arkansas. They just went live with their pilot, and we're targeting kind of early August, depending on Treasury feedback, for their full program rollout. In setting up their pilot program, or really their overall program, this is some of the considerations that we took into consideration for developing their plan. You know, first and foremost, defining the need, the total need, which is that 274 million number that we see on the screen, and how that need is made up between delinquencies, defaults, and foreclosures. And then furthermore, measuring that against and justifying obviously the allocation they do plan to receive, the total including administrative costs coming to about 63 million for the state. They're expecting that about 60% of the applicants who are approved and receive that funding will be 100% AMI or less, with 25% reserved or meeting the greater than 100% but not exceeding 150% AMI, and including that socially disadvantaged population. So that makes up the 85% of that funding, with the administrative cost reserved for the other 15%. So that is the plan as it has been. You know, we're planning to submit to Treasury before that final program launch. We are conducting this pilot. So the pilot is made up of kind of like a smaller group. We don't have all the pieces necessarily in play for the pilot that we plan for the larger program launch. Arkansas was able to leverage an existing mortgage relief program within the state and really use that portfolio to provide this pilot. So in doing so, they reached out to the servicers involved in that existing program. U.S. Bank and Service Solutions are the servicers that they are using in the portfolios that have been provided to us to support that pilot. ProLink Plus is supporting the homeowner application portal and the agency backend database as they conduct their pilot. Horn is providing their program management services and their call center representatives. And then 5.9 is really the call center operations system software that's pretty prominent across call centers that they're using to manage those calls as they come in. So those are generally the different partners involved in supporting their pilot. So after engagement with Arkansas and a few weeks of more discovery, business process discovery, and working through that consulting piece that we alluded to earlier as part of our implementation, we started our software training on June 15th and concluded around July 6th. So that was the training period. Again, because of the decision to use an existing portfolio and identified group as part of this pilot and control that pilot in that way. There are certain phases that we are rolling into in different groups that will be onboarding and training for the larger program launch that weren't necessarily required for this smaller team for the pilot program. So this was the initial training of those initial teams, and then they had their first pilot, their launch, their go live for their pilot on June 21st. So that was their first application intake. Underwriting began on July 1st, and I know that we are all targeting and hoping to release our first funding sometime this week. So we put 7/16 on here, and we're crossing our fingers to see that happen. And I know we're really all very much looking forward to that success. So it has been a privilege to work with Arkansas through this process. We've learned some things. They've been a great partner to work with, and you know, we're all on the same page with each other. Your deadlines are our deadlines, and so as we move forward, that's the theme. That is kind of what we're marching to together, is making sure that this overall program is a success. So as we move into that final program launch, they are targeting as much as we can early August, and we'll just see how Treasury responds and any adjustments required to continue with that timeline. So that will include the additional 90%, that 49 million remaining in their total allocation, which I have every confidence we will meet and get out the door to the homeowners who need them as soon as we possibly can. So with that being said, I'm going to hand it over to Leonard to start his live presentation for the next half hour or so. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bree. Make sure I'm showing the correct screen here. Okay, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I am Leonard Megaliola. I'm a product owner here at ProLink Solutions. Today, I'm going to do a brief demo of ProLink software solution for the Homeowner Assistance Fund, ProLink Plus. Due to the limited time for this webinar, this will be an abbreviated demo, but if you are interested in seeing a full-length demo or seeing any of the functionality I show in more depth, please reach out to us. Let us know. We'd be happy to give you a more in-depth demonstration. The screen I'm showing here right now, this is our homeowner portal, which is the application portal through which applicants can apply for your program. It is mobile friendly and responsive to the screen sizes that your users may be using, so they can fill out their applications anywhere they would like to. It also supports multiple languages, so if we need to translate the application into any variety of languages, we can do that courtesy of Google, making those translations for us. And in order to get started filling out an application, we do need an account to get going here. And this allows us to collect all the important application materials and also keep a record of any answers to pre-qualification questions or anything like that that they may have filled out along the way. So I'm going to go ahead and start by creating an application here, kind of walking you through that process at a high level. I'm not going to enter every single data point here. I'll jump around a little bit between a couple of different applications so that this is not a demo of my data entry capabilities. But we'll step at least through on a new application here. We do presently, in this particular instance of the application, require multi-factor authentication, which allows us to verify folks' cell phone numbers and email addresses. That type of data collection or requirement in the system can be configured by you, whether or not you want to allow this, and will be configurable for those who are interested by the applicants themselves if they don't have cell phones or anything along those lines. I'm going to go ahead and click in this verify registration button here and get a code in the mail here so that I can verify my email address before we continue. Then let me log in again. And we're also going to, in this particular instance, ask me to verify my cell phone number as I'm going through this here. So give me 1 second as I get that code in. Those are pretty quick that those come in, so not to hold anybody up in the application process. As we go through this application, first step will be to answer how we found out about the program. So we'll select an option there, and then we can select from among a variety of programs that we may want to apply to. In this case, we've only set up our application for one program, the Homeowner Assistance Fund, but we do support the ability to select from among a variety of options there if you do have multiple programs you want to support. I'll go ahead and say yes, continue here, and we will start into our pre-qualification process. This process requires that we first enter our name. We'll go ahead and enter a name in there, select a county, and a number of household members in the property. This is going to give us the ability to ask some targeted questions around AMI on our pre-qualification questions screen, which is the next screen that we'll jump into over here. So you can see the first question here is your total annual household income from all sources less than 90,600. That is the appropriate 150% AMI level that we're looking at for this particular program as kind of the initial screener to get people through here. All of the questions that you see on here are configurable to your agency and for your needs, and can be changed over time as program requirements change. And we will snapshot what questions people answered if you do change them, so that we're not changing the question from underneath anybody as they're filling or as you're processing their application. I'll go in here and make sure I enter in the correct answers so that I can be pre-qualified. I'll just show you what that looks like here if you are pre-qualified. So you are pre-qualified for your program, and so some of the content in here you will see is placeholder content for your specific program information, as far as the program names and so on and so forth. Once we are pre-qualified, we can continue into the application process where we'll start filling out personal information. Real quick, I did want to show what it would look like if somebody filled out incorrectly, just so you know what happens to those folks. What they'll get is a screen that gives them some information about who they can contact if they have any questions about not being qualified for this program. So this here should say you're not qualified for this program, and you'll be able to customize all this content about who they can contact if they have questions, concerns, complaints, or want to follow up further. Again, completely customizable to your agency's needs. However, if you are pre-qualified, you will continue on to the application process, and we'll be able to continue filling out all of the details we need for the application. I'm going to log out here real quick and log into a different application where I've already filled in a lot of those details so that we're not, again, watching me enter data all day long. And so here we go through the process. We found, oh, we should not have jumped back here. Well, I'm not sure what's going on in this particular case. Seem to have hit a little bit of a snag there, so let me jump back out, and I will just have to go through here and enter application details for the application I was previously filling out. I do apologize for that. Looks like I found a little bug in the system here. So one more time, you can watch me enter a code in here, and we'll keep going. Okay, so just entering details here. Filling out application information, all the details we need. We'll collect personal details. Ask them if they're a veteran. We can support collecting details about spouses, co-borrowers, co-borrowers and spouses if they aren't the same folks on the application. We'll collect contact information, time to call them, enter an address here for the property. There. And how many dependents are living at the property right now. Property address is the same as the mailing address, so we'll select that. We do ask the applicants for information about their socially disadvantaged status, kind of a self-reporting here, whether or not they do or do not, or not sure whether they meet the definition of socially disadvantaged. This helps gives us, our underwriters, a little bit of insight in whether or not they may meet those requirements, but we also collect additional details such as their race, ethnicity, and gender information. And finally, on this particular screen, we'll ask for information about what their hardship is and ask for a statement about their hardship here. These options are configurable, although with the HHF program, many of these options had to be reported to Treasury, and so we may need to keep those in line with Treasury reporting requirements. I'm not sure why my Social Security is not bad there. Let's try that again. Okay. If they're eligible for unemployment, we have a benefit start date, end date, and benefit amounts we can collect. We can collect current employment information, such as who their employer is, how long they've worked there, and other details. I'll skip that for now in the interest of time. On property information here, we do want to collect some details about the property, such as what the last known appraised value of the property is, what the property owner intends to do with the property, whether it's owner occupied or not. Do they have taxes, or who pays the taxes? Are they current? Do they have HOA or condo fees, which they can fill out those details if they do. Information about property insurance, whether the policy is current, who their insurance company is, and whether or not there are any judgments on the property. If there are, they're required to fill out some details with some additional information there. For mortgage information, and in the pilot program for Arkansas right now, we are focused primarily on mortgage payments at this time, but we are in the middle of our development of our support for additional eligible expenses such as utilities and other types of expenses that you may want to support your applicants with. And that functionality is nearing completion now and should be available ideally in a few weeks here. And some additional details here. You can kind of continue on from there. All right, you can upload up or enter up to 4 mortgages as you're going through this. We'll continue on to financial information here, where they can enter in any current wages, any additional income sources. They can select from a variety of options here that may apply. Enter all of those details, and then they can also enter in expense information as well. So if they wanted to enter some details about some of their regular expenses that they have to pay out. If they filed for bankruptcy, they will need to fill out additional details there about the bankruptcy as well. So we have all of that information. And just a note on the mortgage details as well. We are also in the process of adding some additional fields to collect details on any forbearance, foreclosure notices received, and other details like that that might affect our ability to provide them with some assistance as they're going through this process. When they get through entry of all of the required fields for the application, they'll get to this review and submit screen. Each one of these sections can be opened up. They can review what they've entered for their answers for those questions. They can easily jump back to edit those details if they need to. And if there is anything missing, they'll see some nice big red icons here letting them know that there's some additional missing fields that they need to come back and fill out in order to submit their application. The last step prior to submitting the application is we do require them to fill out or sign a hardship affidavit. And we do use DocuSign. Optionally, use DocuSign to have those signed. If your agency would prefer that they just type in a signature as a text field, we can do that as well, which was our older way of supporting this. But presently, the newest functionality here is this DocuSign functionality, which I'll briefly show here real quick as I can get an email message in from DocuSign with those details. So I just got that email in here. This document obviously can be updated to the language and format of information that you need for your agency. So put some test information here. Come down here, we'll sign our hardship affidavit. Finish the process there. Let's jump back to our site here. All right, so if I refresh this screen now and come back after signing our document, should take another minute or so, but it will tell us that that this document has been signed and we can now submit our application. Let's see, did I not submit that all the way? A moment, we'll wait for that to update. Signed on 7/14, we're good. And if you do have counselors and co-borrowers and spouses on your application, we do require signatures from them as well in order to move on. Once we've gotten through that process, we can submit our application. We'll be asked to verify that we want to submit it. We won't be able to edit any information afterwards. We'll lock that information down. This says I missed a field. So let's jump back, see if I can figure out where that was. Thought I had filled that one out. We'll fill that out again. Back to our review and submit. Now should be able to submit that application. Okay. I'm not sure what happened here. It's asking us to resend for documents, so I apologize for that. This is a brand new release here, and something has happened here. But I will talk around this one real quick and to say that once that signature is in, we submit that application. That completes the application process for the applicant there. Following that part of the process, they would be able to access the supporting files screen here, where they're given a list of supporting documentation required by your agency and customizable, configurable for your agency as far as what documents we want them to submit. They will be able to continue to submit this documentation after the application has actually been submitted to the agency, as the agency continues to identify more documents that the applicant should submit. They're able to come in here, upload those directly into the system. They can also upload images of documents from their phone, other details like that, and they'll be able to find copies of documentation here moving forward as well. And this is also where they will be able to, in the future, come back in and see a summary of their application and what the status is of their application here. So that's a brief overview of the application process. Let me jump over into our back office software, which is really where we're going to manage these applications. And there's a lot of functionality here to go through, so I'm going to kind of touch on some highlights here. And if we have some additional time, I can dive deeper into some of the other areas within this system. The first screen that we're on here is the MyQ screen. This screen is really the epicenter of working in the system. Any applications that somebody on your staff may be assigned to will show up on this screen in the various stages that our applications show up in. Our applications have some pretty strict application stages that you have to flow through one after the other. And in order to in order to move from one application to another, you have to meet certain requirements in the system. And 1 second here, got myself logged out. And so you can see all of the applications in those various stages right here on this particular screen here. Those stages include the registration, qualification, or submitted, qualification, underwriting, closing processes, disbursements, monitoring, and completed. And so applications move through each one of those. If you want to find out or if you want to see applications that are just assigned to a particular individual, you can select those here. Those individuals can do that as well, jump straight to the work that they're supposed to be focused on at any one individual point. We do also have the ability to search for applications based on email address, last four of social security number, an application ID, address, and a variety of other fields. Those show up in our search results over here, and also give you another way to quickly jump to applications. Within an individual application, if we're looking at an application in our system, there's a variety of screens we have available here to help manage and view those applications. So in this case, I'm looking at this application for Alexa. We get some summary information on this screen. Most importantly, though, we want to start taking a look at their application. All of the details of their application as they entered it on the other portal are available on this homeowner application screen, with all of the fields available, editable by folks in the back office if something needs to be changed or modified to be corrected for this particular application here. So we can see all of those details and quickly get into those. The pre-qual questions are program specific, and so we have a section of program specific fields here on the left. We can click into those pre-qual questions, see what they answered, modify those answers if they accidentally answered incorrectly, and make other determinations as we need to based on the data they entered there. As I mentioned before, all of our applications go through a variety of program stages. Within this one particular application here, we can take a look at what those program stages are and see a full history of how this application moved through those stages over time. And so you can see who moved those applications forward, any notes that they may have entered on that application as it was moving between those stages. And then we can see what the system requires you to be able to do in order to move an application from any one stage to the next stage. This helps enforce some due diligence on the application, making sure we've got all the right data we need and make sure we're taking all the right steps we need to take before we can go to the next application here. And one of those things that we have to complete for each one of the applications that we want to advance to a stage is take a look at what checklists we have to complete. Checklists are configured as an administrative feature in our system where you can configure template checklists. And they're down here, checklist templates, where you can configure those for across the system, and those can be brought in automatically into an application whenever that application hits a particular stage in the process. So if you hit an underwriting stage, for example, we'll automatically bring in that template underwriting checklist into the application, and that will allow somebody working on this application to make sure they go through and check off, either complete or waive every item in this list before we can continue moving forward with that application to the next stage. So again, these checklists for any particular stage need to be required before we can advance that forward, and that helps us keep track of everything there. Under the same program as well, we have our program qualification screen. This screen really is the primary underwriting screen. We can see a summary of information provided by the applicant on this application, including their monthly annual income, percentages of AMIs. We can have underwriting income if there's a different way of calculating that value out for underwriting purposes. See the underwriting percent of AMI and NMI, and some other details around income. We can see how they answered socially disadvantaged questions and demographic data as well on these screens. Actually, I don't see the demographic data on this one. Oh, it's right here. And then property information, and then additional other qualification information down below. This is where we can review a lot of those details, and then finally select whether or not this applicant is approved for benefits or not. In this case, this particular application is actually a little bit further along in the process where I'm not able to edit that value. But if I came back to an application in an earlier stage of the process, you'll be able to see that looks like before they've actually been approved for benefits here. You can control, whether or not they are approved, what their total approved amount is, and then you can actually set up a schedule of disbursements to help make payments. So if you're doing monthly disbursements, we can set the number of disbursements that should be paid out. If you're doing single disbursements here, you can specify how much should be dispersed for that catch-up payment, when it should be made, and how many months that is catching the applicant up on. In the future, this will also include the ability to set up payments for utilities that the applicant has applied for assistance with as well. We do have some other information on these screens for treasury reporting and follow-up information, appeals, tracking, and other details such as that in here as well. We do have, for those states who may have been involved in HHF, we do have the ability to queue up CDF records from within the system. We have the ability to import CDF records into the system as well and view the latest V record in particular if you want to see the servicer latest details about that particular loan. Make sure we're getting the right payment amounts on those monthly payments and the right catch-up payment amounts and so forth. You'll see that information here that's imported from those records as well. I talked a little bit about the MyQ screen and how those applications can show up for the various users that they're assigned to. We do have an application engine in the system, or sorry, an assignment engine in the system that automatically can assign users in a few different roles to applications based on round robin methods, or based on a weighted ranking of like external counseling agencies if you want to distribute it amongst third-party agencies. And when a user gets assigned to the application team on an individual application, that's how that application ends up showing up in the MyQ screen that I showed earlier as well. Our data view functionality, kind of jumping out of an individual application. Actually, I'm sorry, let me jump back real quick. One other thing I wanted to cover here. For applications that are in our disbursement stage, we can take a look at that schedule of disbursements. They're all scheduled out here automatically by the system based on that information entered in the underwriting screen for program qualifications. And we'll go ahead and stub those out automatically and schedule those out automatically based on those details once we get to that disbursement stage. When we're in that disbursement stage, we do offer utilities that allow us to export disbursements that need to be paid out at any one particular time. We can search for disbursements based on date and other criteria, such as the payee or the program that we're dispersing for, and you can export those to an Excel file that can be used by accounting or finance departments or other third-party service providers to actually make those payments on your behalf. We have some additional utilities here around generating some 1098 data, importing HUD income limits, and doing some recertification tasks. We can talk about those more in a longer demo if you're interested. We do have a variety of reporting options here, including reports on how counselors are performing, how many applications they have assigned, how long applications are sitting in their hands, potential duplicate applications. We do a scan across the system looking for possible fraud indicators with duplicate social security numbers or duplicate loan numbers. We also have some utilities here to support compliance for homeownership retention if that happens to be part of one of your programs. And then really the biggest one here at the end, skipping over this one that just breaks out scheduled payments by who the payees are going to be, is the quarterly treasury report that's required, that was required for the HHF program, and we expect will be required for this program as well. And we're still waiting for details from Treasury so that we can update the functionality of that particular report. Our data views are essentially table-based access into all of the data in our system. It's one way we give you access into the data. You can configure which columns show up in this view of all of the program applications in the system. You can choose how you want to group data on this screen as well, and view it grouped in different ways. You can filter the data by a variety of criteria within the screen itself, or you can actually create predefined canned views of the data where you can set up exactly which columns you want to see, what order you want to see those in, and what kind of query filters you want to put on that data, so you're only seeing the data that you really want to see in the export from the data view. And I did just mention it there, export any data you see in here as you've queried it in the data view. You can export to Excel, so you can do additional analysis or additional reporting on that data as you need to. And any of those customized views into the data can be saved and jumped to quickly at any point in time by a user who has to repeat that view on a regular basis. These views can be publicly available for everybody across the system, or can be created privately for individual users who have specific purposes for it. Finally, real quick, I'm just going to show our administrative screen here. We do have a lot of options for you to configure in the system, and ways to configure all those entities in the system, such as the servicers or utilities that you might be paying, users in the system, program configurations, those checklist templates I talked about. I didn't really touch on our forgiveness schedules. Most of the agencies we've talked to so far are doing grant-based programs and not programs with any sort of forgiveness period at the end of it, but we do also have the ability to calculate out those forgiveness schedules as well, and let you know what's remaining balances and so on and so forth. So with 2 minutes left, I'm going to call that good for now, but please reach out if you'd like to see some more detail on all of this, and thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Leonard, so much. Hopefully everyone can see my screen again, the ProLink Plus fund deployment, just an update on our next upcoming webinar. So we're gonna host another demo. One thing I will point out is we're hosting these meetings to first share the information we're gaining about HAF, share our lessons learned as much as we can with other agencies, and also keep you updated as to the new releases that we're rolling out. Everything that you've seen today is live in ProLink Plus. We're not sharing mock-ups of future technology. We're sharing it as we're releasing it. So I just want to make sure that that is known to you, and you continue to stay engaged with us as you are evaluating the vendors and partners that you would like to work with for your HAF program. So we are actively tackling the regulatory requirements. I think Leonard spoke to a couple enhancements that are going to be released within the next couple weeks, I think, related to utility tracking. And we're continuing to track and meet the needs from a regulatory standpoint as that guidance is released. And so we have, some things that we know we'll be doing there, including that Treasury reporting that we will be updating when that guidance is released from Treasury. And then we have our roadmap, which has a number of nice to have features, which we are prioritizing with our clients. We work closely with our clients in identifying and prioritizing what those things are, and we plan to continue those releases well into the future. We're not going to stop with just kind of our phase one. This will be an evolving solution that we continue to improve and invest in over time so that it's the best it possibly can be for your emergency funding needs, hopefully translating into other areas of support for you in the future. So with that said, we hope you will join us again on August 18th for another updated demo presentation at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And my helper behind the scenes, Ryan, is going to share that link with you in the chat, so you can go ahead and register right away or share that with your team if you'd like. Please reach out to us if you would prefer to have a private demo and private discussion regarding your specific HAF needs. We'd love to do that with you and make a connection there. So, and thank you so much to Josh and Leonard for your help on this presentation. We appreciate everybody's time, and we wish you a good day, and we hope to talk to you again soon. Okay, thank you.